Hi guys, this is Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to be doing a handover video on this AutoTrail Tribute. So it's based on the 2015 Fiat Ducato chassis, and don't worry, we haven't cleaned it just yet, so that's why it looks a little bit dusty. So what I'll do is I'll start under the bonnet, show you around there, and then I'll work my way all the way around the outside, and then we'll go inside after that. So on these newer cabs, you have got the majority of your kind of what you might call your consumable items, so all of your fluids and things like that are all on the left hand side. So over on the very left, we've got your washer fluid reservoir tucked away in there. We've then got your power steering fluid here, engine coolant, brake fluid, engine oil, and your engine oil dipstick from there. You've got on the front bar just here, we've got some air conditioning information just here. You've got these two chassis plates. So this is the original one that came out of the Fiat factory, and this is the one that it's been changed to after it was converted to a motorhome. So basically all they've done is they've changed the cab weight from 3,650 to 3.5 ton so that you can drive it on any car license. Basically, that's why they've done that. So the other sticker that's here is the paint code. So this is the white paint color, so 249. So if you ever needed any touch-up paints or anything like that, it's Fiat 249 as the colour throughout there. As for the rest of the bonnet, you've got over on the right-hand side, air filter sits inside this little circular box down here. And over on the right, you can probably just about see here, underneath this little cover, is your positive terminal for the engine battery. So if you ever need any jump starting, you've got positive terminal there and a negative terminal just up here on the top. So those two basically just link directly to the engine battery and allow you to jump start. I'm just going to put something up against this door because it's being a bit noisy. There we go. Right, so yeah, that's about it for under the bonnet really. Not much else that I can show you, to be fair. It's all pretty straightforward stuff on these, to be completely honest. Right, so inside the passenger door, we have got the bonnet release handle is just here on the left-hand side. And underneath this passenger seat is your jack and wheel brace kit. So if you ever, were in some serious bother, you've got your jack underneath the passenger seat. You have also got a fire extinguisher just there. But that is about it, really. Your diesel filling point is just inside here. So you will need your ignition key in order to fill up your diesel tank. Right, so the full-size wind-out awning up the top, just there. And obviously underneath the habitation door there as well. The hab door opens up and sort of closes across with the little cable up there, or well, gas strut is what it is. So you'll see that it'll kind of, when you're pulling on it, it gets to that point just there and kind of cracks over to sort of keep it tensioned, basically. So that works really well. One of the only things that was picked up on the hab check was the two fridge vents just here, so they both needed replacing. So these are two brand new fridge vents, as you can see. As I said, you've got the full wind-out awning. This is a Fiamma F45 awning, and your awning light just there, which has got its own switch just inside the van. So you've got your freshwater filling point just here. So you have got, I noticed, I'll just grab the keys out. You have got a brand new pair of keys for this lock. Sorry, just trying to do it with one hand. So these two keys just here will be for this freshwater cap, so you can twist it off nice and easy. And when you go to lock it back up, you push in and round to the right until it stops. Key goes back in, twist it, and take the key out. So now it will still spin, but you will not be able to take it out. In the rear lockers, it's basically just loads of storage. So you've got, this is your awning winder, by the way, just in case you wondered what that was. So your awning winder's there. The original carpets are all here as well, so we just give them a little hoover off and roll them up, leave them in the back, just so that you can see the condition of the floor and so that we can clean them properly. But yeah, that's about it really, just loads of storage at the back. The actual back of the van, we've got your reversing camera up the top and your 2-bike bike rack. So yeah, not much to say about that either. On the off side of the van, we've got a few more bits to show you. So the very first thing we get to at the back here is your boiler vent. So if you had the boiler lit up, you'll be able to feel warm air coming out through either side of this. So that's a way of sort of double checking that it's definitely working properly. Inside this locker, even though you do get more storage, it's not just that. So on the left-hand side here, we have got towards the back your water pump just there, which looks pretty new to me, but might be wrong. And you've got your boiler just here. So the boiler itself is this black unit that you can see. You haven't got to do anything with that, but you do need to know about this little yellow drain off point. So as you can imagine, this is the drain off for the boiler. And basically, if you want to winterize the van and you want to drain the water out from inside the boiler, you lift this tab upright. And because we're inside, I'm not going to leave that open very long, but you can probably see when I do it again, the amount of water that comes out. So basically we've got 10 litres inside the boiler, and this drain off point just controls that staying in or dropping out. So when you want to winterize, lift this upright and it will drain everything out from inside there. Otherwise, you want to leave it in the position that it's in now so that the boiler doesn't, you know, leak or drop any water out. Leisure battery sits inside this little locker down here. All right, so you haven't got to do anything with that, but I'm just pointing out to you that that's where the leisure battery is. And over there towards the right, we have got, so this is a mains switch, basically like an isolator. I'm going to have to double check when we get inside what that one's for, because you've also got another one over towards the back, which if I zoom in a little bit more, you can see that one there says Ultra Store, I think. It's not focusing very well because we're in the dark, but I'll have a look when we get inside anyway, and then I'll tell you. So underneath that, we have got a couple of freshwater drain off points. So if you want to drain out your fresh tank, you just basically twist those two both open and it will drain the fresh water out. Above that, we've got your electric hookup point. So if you do have access to a hookup cable, it's a really nice thing to have plugged in. It means that you don't have to worry about your leisure battery voltage because it's being charged up all the time. Also means that you know, you can use any of your mains powered appliances. So the fridge works on the mains as well as gas. You know, but I'll explain in more detail that in a little bit. Now you've got, if I open up the gas locker, you have got the option on here of having either refillable or standard gas bottles. Now at the moment, this is a refillable bottle with the refill point being just here on the outside. So this is a gas it bottle. All right, it's just a standard sort of refillable bottle basically. But when I say that you've got the option, what I mean is you've got a space here for another single bottle. So you can just have a normal propane bottle in here as well if you want to. So if I just turn the gas bottle on, I'll show you how to do that. So we go anti-clockwise around to the left, turns the bottle on. I always recommend to just go all the way up to the top, just keep going until it sort of stops. There you go. And the reason that I say that is because when you come back to the van to turn the gas bottle off, if you're sort of somebody that might have forgotten which way it was to turn it on and which way it was to turn it off, if you've gone all the way on, then you can physically only turn the thing one way anyway. So go all the way on and all the way off. But yeah, so basically the refill point is there, gas bottle, and then you've got your regulator up here at the back. You haven't got to do anything with the regulator. This little bit on the side here is just for us testing. And yeah, that's it. Just make sure that you turn the gas off before you start driving. And that's all you need to remember, really. So, next locker we get to is the toilet cassette. So the toilet cassette locker is very simple. This is like an industry standard Thetford toilet cassette. So basically to remove the cassette, you lift up on the little orange handle here at the front, pull the cassette towards you a little bit, chuck that out of the way, and then it will come all the way out. Okay, so basically, as long as you've lifted up this little bit here and pulled it forwards a little bit, you'll be able to take it all the way out. All you need to know from there is that you twist this open here and undo this little cap to drain the actual cassette out. When you're draining it out, you need to hold down the little orange button here at the back. And then once you have finished draining it out, 1 cap's worth of your blue fluid goes back inside, give it a little swish around, and then make sure that your little lip is over there. And that's it. Really simple. And then the last thing on the offside is your wastewater drain off point, which is this one here, which is very simply just a handle on the left-hand side, as you can see. Twist it and it will drain out through there. So couldn't be any easier. If you are on a campsite where you need like a rollaway tank, you would obviously just put that underneath that drain off point. Or if you're at a bigger campsite with the sort of Elson drain points, you can just drive over it and drop it from there. So in the actual cab, a couple of bits to show you. So both of these front seats swivel all the way around. You use these little handles here to allow you to swivel the seats around. Because it's on a bit of a newer chassis, you do get quite a lot of nice bits and pieces. And plus it's a nice spec as well, so you don't have to, you don't necessarily get all of these things as standard. So on the right hand side, we have got, obviously you've got your electric windows, as you come to expect nowadays. You've also got your electric adjusting mirrors, so you select which mirror you want to move, like so, and then move it around like a little joystick, like that. On here, we have got your headlight adjustments and your fog lamp switch just there. You've got your indicators and lights on the left-hand stalk, and all of your cruise control and limiter functions down here on the bottom left-hand stalk. Your washers and wipers are obviously on the right-hand stalk there, and you've also got the steering wheel controls here as well, so you can connect up your phone to the stereo system, basically answer and decline phone calls and change the volume and all that sort of stuff. So this is the original fitted stereo, so it's a double DIN size stereo, and yeah, not much to explain about that really. It's just you'll come to get used to it very quickly, I'd imagine. The air conditioning is this little button just here. You will notice that the light won't come on until you have the number here on 1 or above. So if you don't have the fan running, you won't get the aircon working. 6-speed manual gearbox, so reverse is lift up on the back, push over and up to the top left hand side to engage reverse. We have got downhill assist if you need it when you've got your cruise control on, and your traction control plus from that button there. Hazard lights from this switch in the middle. You can lock and unlock the cab from that button just there, and this button here will not do anything at all because the original rear window has been removed because it's now a motorhome, so that button there will not do anything. Got a couple of 12-volt sockets just there, and a USB and auxiliary point down underneath here as well. So that's to do with the radio. The reversing camera will come on from this little screen just here. As you can see, this is a proper park safe screen. All right, so that's a good brand basically for the reversing cameras. And that's about it really. I can't think of anything else that I can explain. I've got the ladder up here, so I'm just going to have to walk around. So this is a really popular layout nowadays, where you've got the rear lounge here, so a U-shape lounge, sorry. So basically, as you can see, U-shaped lounge, the bed will make up by just pulling this piece out in the middle, and then you'll be able to use all of these cushions as nice, comfortable, well, essentially a mattress really. So the bed itself is absolutely massive, as you can probably tell here. 6 foot either way, I would imagine, or 6 foot wide, 5 foot long, looks about right. So huge bed. Loads of natural light coming in through these big rear windows as well. So these have got to be some of the biggest rear windows I've ever seen. Sometimes you get maybe one big window and 2 small ones, but these are all big, so big plus for that. I'll just have a little look in here, just so that you're aware. In this locker just here, these 2 cables are basically one's going to be for the reversing camera, and one's going to be for the reversing, or the center brake light. So yeah, don't worry about either of those. Basically, just leave them be. So what I'll do is I will start with the control panel and this sort of area up here. So you've got this little switch just here, which, as you can see, works the step. The control panel itself is one of the most simple Sargent control panels there is. So you've basically got a main power switch, which, as you can imagine, turns all of the power off. So that's your 12-volt power. Anything that runs from the leisure battery basically gets turned on by that switch there. You've then got 2 battery symbols here. You've got one that has an L in it and one that has a V. So that's leisure and vehicle. So whichever one is highlighted, which at the moment is leisure, is the battery that's powering all of the stuff in the back end of the van. So your lights and your water pump and whatever. If I switch the button over here to vehicle, you can now see that the vehicle battery is the battery that's powering the back end of the van. So in an ideal world, you do not want to do that unless you wanted the hookup cable to charge the engine batteries. But, you know, it's very unlikely or unusual that you would need to do that. So for the most part, you want to leave this switch here on leisure. Okay, it will also show you when you click on either of these the battery voltages in both batteries. When you're hooked up on the mains, you can expect it to go right the way up to the top, and you'll be fully charged basically. The only other 2 buttons on here are your water pump switch, which when I press it now will start beeping at us like crazy. Right, so the reason that happened is because if we have a look at our fresh water level by pressing this button here, flashing red right at the bottom means that the fresh water tank is pretty much completely empty. Okay, so what will happen is, because it's a really bad thing to run a pump when it's dry, if there's no water running through a water pump, you should not be running it. So basically what happens is the pump will come on when you press the button, but if the water tank is nearly empty or it's completely empty, it will just start beeping at you like that to tell you not to run it for very long. So as I say, water pump, fresh water level, and that's it. You have got this little switch just here, which does the awning light, which, you know, inside here with all the lights on doesn't look very bright, but actually if it was nighttime and you had the awning out, that's a seriously bright LED light, so that's absolutely perfect. So I'll leave the power switch on up there and on leisure, as I said, and that'll then give us access to using any of the 12-volt lights. And a little switch there. There you go. All right, so you've got lights all the way around the van. So yeah, basically just main power switch on up there, and then you'll be able to use anything 12-volt. Now I will just mention that under that locker that I showed you outside, if you try and remember back to it, I had one switch over here on the left-hand side and one switch over on the right. Now those 2 switches are both to do with the mains powered appliances in the vehicle. So pretty much everything in this van works on gas or mains. Okay, so the switch that's over on this side here under that locker, just because I can see now what we got inside, that'll be for the heater. So having that switch turned on will allow you to use the heater on the mains. Now there is still another thing that you have to do to make that happen, which I'll show you in a minute, but I'm just pointing out to you that that's what that switch is for. The one towards the back of the van will be the switch for the mains on the boiler, which also has another thing that you have to do to get it to work, but I'll show you through that in just a minute. So long story short, you can leave those 2 switches turned on even if you are hooked up on the mains, because you have to do other things to get it to work anyway. They are just basically isolators for those two things. Right, so I'll just sort of go through in a logical way, I suppose. So towards the front, we've got your full-sized standalone table in here. So you just slide this table out, and then you'll be able to stand that up just here in the middle to make a really big lounge area. You have obviously got your really massive overcab bed up here as well. So this pulls all the way forwards to here and then makes up a huge bed at the top. The sink is literally just a hot and cold sink. You've got a hot and cold tap there, sorry. So left is always hot, or should be, and over to the right is cold. Now, the only thing I need to mention about the sink or the water system is that basically because you've got a boiler in the van, you need to make sure that the boiler is full up of water before you start trying to use it. The only way to do that, because you've got the manual drain off point, basically if you haven't drained the boiler out yourself with that manual drain off point, then it should be full. But it's a really good thing to do, just a good bit of practice to do what I'm going to explain to you now. So the only way to actually know that the boiler is full up of water is to, first of all, make sure you've got some water in the fresh tank, turn the water pump on, and then just literally come to the tap here and lift it up on the hot side. What will happen is if the boiler's full up, the hot side of the tap will come through nice and clearly. It won't cough, it won't splutter, it will just come through nice and clear. Okay, no air, basically. If the boiler isn't quite full, when you lift up that hot side of the tap, you'll just get a little bit of air coming through. It might just cough and splutter. A little bit of air will come through with the water. And until that water starts coming through really nice and clearly, the boiler isn't quite full. If the boiler is completely empty and you have to refill it again, you do the same process. Make sure you've got water in the tank, turn the pump on, and just literally leave the hot water side of the tap open until it starts coming through. And it can take a minute or two for that to happen. So if you imagine the boiler is 10 litres, if you've completely emptied it out, think about how long it would take to fill the tap up, fill a 10 litre tank up from here. It's probably the same as this thing here. So it's going to take a little while for that to fill up before it allows it to come up to the tap. Okay, so that's the sort of hot water side of things. The cold water is even easier. It's literally just the pump draws it straight from the tap, the tank, sorry, straight to the tap. So you shouldn't really get any air in that system unless the tank's not quite full. So you have got one of these smart little mains extension leads here. So you can turn it on and off from that switch there. Obviously your electric hookup needs to be in for this to work. But it's quite nice that it sort of slips away like that. So below this, we have got your Dometic fridge. So this is what you would call a three-way fridge. So you have got three different options of how to get the fridge cold. Now these two here are the only ones that you can use to actually get the fridge cold. The one over here on the right, the little battery symbol, is for keeping the fridge cold whilst you're driving. Okay, so let me explain that. These two here are the only ones that are actually powerful enough to get the fridge cold by itself. And the 12-volt option is literally just for holding the temperature inside whilst you're driving. So if you're hooked up on the mains, you can press this little button here. Let me just turn the fridge on. You can press this button here. It will give us a fault code in a second because the hookup is not plugged in. There you go. It's just realised now that the hookup's not in, so it's flashing at us, telling us that it's not working properly. The only option that we can use right now is the gas. So when I press the gas option here, it should light up by itself. There you go. So the gas is now lit up. I actually heard it. I don't know if you heard it on the video, but I can hear it in person. And that's it. So after a couple of hours now, the fridge will be nice and cold. You've got a temperature selector on the right. And that's it. So they are your two options. If you're hooked up on the mains, use the mains. If you've got the gas on, use the gas. So, as I just briefly mentioned, these fridges will take a good few hours to actually get completely cold. You have got a little freezing compartment at the top, okay? But they will take a good few hours to get cold either on the mains or on the gas. Now, the 12 volt basically the reason that that only works when your engine's running is because you've got what's called a split charge relay or split charger. Now basically when the engine's running, the alternator charges the engine battery and in turn has another set of cables that run through to the leisure side of the van. So in other words, when you're driving, the leisure battery is being charged up and you've got an additional cable that runs to the fridge for this little switch here. So this literally uses the engine's power to work. So if I switch over to 12 volt now, straight away, fault code because the engine isn't running. So I always recommend, if you're going to use the fridge, if you're going to go on holiday, for example, I might recommend that you leave the fridge on overnight, either on the mains or on the gas, the night before you leave. And then by the morning, when you're getting ready to go, the fridge will be perfectly cold. And all you have to do is switch over to 12 volt just for when you're driving. All right, if you don't have the option of doing that, then of course you're just going to have to wake up fairly early, put it on a good 2 or 3 hours before you leave on the mains or on the gas, and then switch over to 12 volt when you're on the drive. And that's it. Nice and easy on the fridge. This little locker to the left, have we got anything important? We've got a gas isolator, which I can't actually see. Oh, we've got all the gas isolators. So these are your gas isolator points. So you've got at the front there, we've got the space heater. Next one is the water heater. Next one is the fridge. And the last one's going to be the cooker. So if you wanted to isolate the gas from any of the appliances in the van, you just turn those 90 degrees so they're laying flat, and then they'll isolate that particular appliance just from there. Grill pan is just inside here. And then not much to show you in there. Okay, so the 3-burner hob that you've got at the top here has got its own ignition. Okay, so just like so. Okay, so that's your 3 burners at the top, and then underneath we have got a little bit that you need to pull out just there to save all of this from getting melted. Fly there. Push in and round to the right for the grill, in and round to the left for the oven, and that is obviously whilst pressing on this ignition switch as well. I very rarely spend any time showing you through these because it's just literally like a household cooker, so you don't need me to show you that. It's very, very easy. So the bathroom, if I just turn around here. So the shower unit here is literally just a hot and cold tap down there, and you obviously got your shower riser at the top there. You can't move that, it's just fixed, but it should be in a decent position. And yeah, just a single drain down there. You have got this shower screen that comes across, obviously, so you can put that into place and it will lock over quite nicely like so and give you a nice waterproof shower room. Make sure that you do clip this back over for when you're on the move, because it will make a hell of a racket if you don't. I have had to, just so that you know, I have had to repair this sink. All right, so all around the actual tap itself around here, it was all busted and all sort of coming away and splitting. So what I have done is taken the whole thing out, repaired it underneath with fiberglass and all that sort of stuff. I've done the same with the drain here as well, but I'm just sort of pointing that out to you in case you think it looks a bit different. It does, because I've had to respray the whole thing with proper paint. But yeah, just so that you know that, basically. Hopefully it looks all right. But yeah, so that's all sorted. Hot and cold tap there. I've put a new tap on that as well. So that's a brand new tap and drain as well. So the toilet is normally the only part that I actually explain, because the rest of it's just self-explanatory. It's just hot and cold. It's, you don't need me to explain that to you. But the toilet is just as easy, but if you haven't used one before, you might not know how to do it. So you can spin this all the way around to wherever you want it to be. You've got a blue button up the top here. Bear in mind that the water pump switch has to be on, and you do have to have some water in the tank in order to flush the toilet. So in this particular case, I can't do it because I haven't got any water in the tank. But I will show you that on this screen, when you press the button, you have a little fan button just there and a level indicator for the cassette telling you how full it is. Okay, so to drain it into the actual cassette itself, you push this to the right and that'll drain into the cassette. And then when you pull it back again, that's it closed. And it's as simple as that. So, last things is going to be the two last appliances, basically. If I open up this cupboard here. So by the looks of it, we have fitted the TV bracket here with the telly. Towards the back of this locker, or the cupboard, or wardrobe if you want to call it that, you've got the tilt and turn TV aerial. Just here. So you need to unscrew this little nut at the top in order to allow it to move up and down. And you've got your TV aerial booster up there at the back. The only other things I'm going to mention about this cupboard is that you've got this little pipe here that comes up to the ceiling, and that is the exhaust basically, or the flue for the heater. So just make sure that you're not sort of resting anything right up against that. It has got protective sheathing around it, but just be careful around it. It will get quite hot after a little while. Loads of paperwork inside this brown folder here, by the way, inside the cupboard. So the space heater, this is a Truma Ultra Heat. So that's basically the name of the heater. Now on the left, you've got the fan speed. So twist the whole thing around to get the fan to come on, and then choose your number from 1 to 5 to get the fan to actually come on. Okay, so that's your fan on the left hand side. If you want to light the heater up on the gas, so you want to use the gas to get the van warm, you've got basically, let me explain. Right, so essentially you need to twist this round to sort of 1 or 2, and you'll hear, maybe not on the video, maybe you can, not sure, you'll hear a little ignition switch going. Now basically that is, if we had a little look down here, you might not be able to see it on the video. Oh, there you go, you can just about see it. You can see the ignition flashing away just there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press down on the button now. If we watch what happens, pilot flame comes on nice and blue and the ignition stops. So basically the flames come on and the thermocouple has told the ignition to stop going. So that's working perfectly. Now all I'm going to do from there is allow this little chamber to warm up a little bit. So I'm just literally allowing it to warm up. And now all I'm going to do is lift up on this and twist it around to sort of about 4. If you watch what happens when I twist it around. So basically what happened there was the pilot flame was already on, and as I twisted it around, it got to a certain point and the main flames gas kicked in as well. So as long as you've got it around to a certain point where the main flames kicked in, and you can see that it's still on just there, you're good to go. That's it. That's honestly all you have to do to use the heater. Now, obviously, you can have the fan on as well, and that will pump around that air to any of these little circular vents here, and I would actually strongly recommend that you do use the fan whenever you're using the heater. The only downside to these heaters is they get so hot on the front. These ones aren't as bad as the older ones because they've got less fins, but they get so hot on the front that sometimes all of these sort of Fablon, or whatever you want to call it, the covering on the front of these cupboards will start to sort of fray and pull away a little bit because the glue tends to melt. So having that fan on just basically pumps around that warm air a little bit more evenly around the van rather than it all coming out the front here. So that's why I always tend to recommend it. So to turn the gas flame off, you just literally twist it all the way back round to 0 up the top. I always recommend to leave the fan running for a few minutes after you've turned it off, but that's only if you've been using it for a little while. So turn the fan off as well. And that's it. That's how you would use the heater. So that's how you would use it if you were using it on the gas, okay? Now you've got the other option of using it on the mains. So as I mentioned on the outside, you have got the switch down here in this corner to basically isolate the mains power to the heater. Now, as I said, you can leave that switch turned on, and then essentially once you plug the hookup cable in, you'll then have access to using this switch that I'm about to show you. So if you want to use it on the mains cable plugged in, you have then got this little dial over here, which also says ultra heat on it. Now, basically, what will happen is when I do this now, it will flash green and it will just go out again. But if you had the mains cable plugged in, it would actually stay green and just start working. So you've got 500, 1,000 or 2,000, which all equate to a number of watts. Okay, so 500 is about 2.2 amps, 1,000 is 4.5, and 2,000 is about 8 amps. Okay, so just bear that in mind. If you're on a campsite where you've got a 10 amp post that you're plugged into, you might want to consider not using 2,000 because you're going to be nearly at your maximum voltage straight away, or ampage, sorry, not voltage. And you know, if you consider if you've got the fridge on the mains, you're going to be drawing about half an amp. If you've got if you're hooked up, the charger will be on. That's going to be about half an amp. So all these things start to add up, and that's before using anything that you've got plugged into the actual sockets there. So just consider that. I always recommend if you are going to use it on the mains, I would just use it on 500 or 1,000. But basically, to use it, you just twist it round once to whichever number you want, and then use a little dial here as well, just for basically how much of a hurry are you in for the heating. It's as simple as that. Background of 0 turns it off, and that's it. So the last thing to show you, the last appliance, is the boiler, or how to use the boiler. I've already shown you how to drain the boiler out and how to sort of winterize the van. But we've got two options down here. We've got a boiler on the left, which is the gas one, and boiler EL, which is obviously boiler on the electric. So assuming that we've got the hookup plugged in and we've left that switch towards the back of the van on, we can use the boiler on the mains. So you've just literally got up or down, which are two different amounts of electric. Off the top of my head, I can't remember which or how many amps each one pulls. I think it might be about 2 and 4, if I'm not mistaken, but I might be wrong. But it's around that sort of figure anyway. So that's your two options there on the mains for the boiler. Now that will still take about half an hour to an hour to actually get the water hot, but these are pretty reliable and quick. The other option on the boiler, the gas, you've literally got 50. You probably heard the little click just there, the gas solenoid opening up, or 70 towards the bottom. And as you can imagine, that's just the temperature of the water, and it will get to that temperature, turn itself off, on, as it needs to. And it's very clever how it does it, but it's just easy as that. All right, so it doesn't get much easier, I don't think, with the boilers. The last thing I need to show you is just down here in this little cupboard. I'm just going to try and hold this up whilst I'm showing you. Now, basically, we have got under here, sorry, it's not a very good, I'm sort of holding this cushion up at the same time. This unit here that says Sergeant on it, this is your power supply unit. So basically, everything electronic runs to this locker, this little unit here, and gets separated and sent around the vehicle as and where it needs to. So all of your 12-volt fuses are here with a little diagram and a couple of words to tell you exactly what they do and what they're for. And on the right hand side, we've got all your mains trip switches there as well, to sort of keep on control of the mains hookup side of things. Towards the back, got a couple of flashing lights here. Don't have to do anything with those. Basically, the one at the back, the blue one, is your solar charge controller. So that'll just be dealing with the solar panels power coming in. And you've got a split relay switch just there as well. Voltage, basically it gets to a certain voltage and then switches over. That's to do with the split charger that I was saying about earlier. So you haven't got to do anything with this area, you just leave it as it is, but I'm just sort of showing you that that's what that is down there. So I'm just going to pop that back down. So, just have a brief little look around. Obviously, as I say, we've just fitted this telly for you as well. These brackets are really good, nice and strong. So I don't think I've missed anything out, but if you think I have, or if there's anything you want going over again, just give us a shout. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.